Hello everyone and welcome to this quite extraordinary school year. And because it's a special school year, your grade 12 Langlet teachers and I have planned your learner portfolio very carefully. To walk you through some changes and to remind you of some guidelines, here is Ms. Jika Regala of the Senior High School English Department.
This video will largely concern itself with the learner portfolio, an assessment that I'm sure you've already encountered previously and accomplished completely, at least for the first year of DP. Let's get right to it. Looking at the slide, you'll find that the learner's portfolio for this semester amounts to 30% of your Savior marks. If you want to read up on what exactly goes on in the learner portfolio, you can pause this video now just so that you can read it. Maybe you're asking yourself right now why you have to have a learner portfolio in the first place. I could give you the easy answer, and that's because you signed up for IB, therefore you gotta do what IB tells you to do. But really, the LP, the learner's portfolio, is here to reinforce all the self-management skills that you have acquired throughout the past 11 or so years of your life in an educational institution like Xavier. Additionally, it's a clear way of preparing for your assessments. Lastly, as a teacher, it's a way for us to monitor not just your progress, but also the paper trail that you leave in pertinence to the assessments that you will complete and submit to the IB. Think of the LP as a notebook or a scrapbook. Think of it as your Instagram dump. But of course, we're not using Instagram. Because through it, you can dump everything about the text that you've studied in a way that you are comfortable with or a way that you deem is most productive to you. Now, maybe another question that you're asking yourself is, sure, why do I have to do it if IB isn't grading it? Yeah, I'd already answered this, but let me elaborate on it further. Instead of thinking of the LP as a burden, something additional to what you have to prepare for, think of the LP as a means of simply compiling most everything you already conventionally do in your English classes. This includes completing graphic organizers or worksheets, writing drafts, making mind maps, making infographics, writing something about a photo, a poster, and so on. The fact of the matter is, the LP, at least its contents, are already something that you already do. As such, when you think of the learner's portfolio, try not to think of it as something that is additional to the requirements of IB, but rather supplemental, a label that is given to things that you already do in English and in IB Langlet classes. Also, I'd like to emphasize that more than a conventional notebook with its bullet points and words, well, the LP is there for you to explore various forms. That means that you don't just have to limit yourself to an outline or a bulleted list. It means that maybe if you want to make a collage, you can do so. If you feel like drawing, go ahead and do so. Also, using the digital platforms available to us now, if you feel like linking out to various media and websites and even applications, go ahead and do so. I guess the point that I want to reinforce is this really, and it's on the slide as well. The LP is a way for you to be heard using a language that you are comfortable and productive in. Over here on the slide is a list of possible entries for your very own LPs. This list is long, I know, but it's by no means exhaustive. Do not let this list limit you because it's just the starting point for the rest of your LP completion. Fact of the matter is, if you look at it, majority of what you can already do is familiar. You've been asked before to annotate poems, to annotate your books, to annotate paragraphs, maybe even to annotate posters and pictures. That counts as a portfolio entry, validly so. There are teacher-prompted responses, and trust me, there will be some of those, wherein you can write maybe a paragraph or two, or maybe be limited by a page in response to a question that the teacher starts with. Other than that, there will also be critical reflective essays or CREs that may not be prompted, but ask you to explore a point that you feel is important to be discussed in reference to a literary or non-literary work. Now, if you feel like you're more of a reader who likes reflecting, you too can have a reader log or a reader journal wherein while you're reading, say, a book or a song that were assigned Kendrick Lamar, Franz Kafka, BuzzFeed, and so on, you reflect on or react to what it is that you've read in a notebook, or at least, well, given our circumstance, a digital notebook. Other than that, and to comfort you, do note that you can submit a compilation of notes for one unit or even a compilation of worksheets or graphic organizers completed for one unit. Lastly, you'll see here that creative entries are available to you. If you feel like using a digital scrapbook, even with digital washi tape and digital Instax photos, go ahead. If you feel like creating a podcast, link it into the page of the platform that you are going to use. If you feel like even making a video series, that's totally fine. Point is, the learner's portfolio, the LP, is your oyster. Take advantage of that possibility. We have to make some hard decisions now. This is actually a question that you are asked in your student profile form, something that you will be answering at the end of this session. And that question is where you want to have your learner's portfolio in the first place. We have 4 options, that being first a Google Drive folder, you with one folder, putting in it multiple file entries of different file types. Secondly, you have the option of using a Google slide presentation. I personally like this because you are limited by the size of the slide that is already pre-prepared for you. In this case, you will have only one presentation that has multiple slide entries. Of course, in those entries, you can link out to other applications, you can embed a video or other such media as well. The third option is Padlet. Now, this is easy as well because, well, it's one pad, one digital pad wherein I can access everything and see everything immediately. So in this case, one Padlet with multiple post entries. The fourth option is, well, subject to approval. If you feel uncomfy with the first 3 options, well then hit me up with a 4th option. Of course, I still need to approve this because if you choose a medium that I will not have access to, I will likely have to veto that option. You've been done with your individual oral since last year, so this does not necessarily apply to you right now, but do note the details of the individual oral assessment, so hit pause right now. More specifically, using the LP can help you succeed in the IO assessment by giving you a space to do the following: to explore and reflect on the text that you've studied, to keep an ongoing or live record of the different global issues that are necessary for comparison or focus in the IO. It's also a place wherein you can explore the links between different texts despite their differences and find certain commonalities or similarities across all of them. Second to the last is that the learner portfolio is a way for you to explore the key extracts in bigger works or bodies of work that differ or have similar perspectives. Lastly, of course, the LP also gives you a space to trace the evolution of your thinking and your progress in preparation for this particular assessment. Something of relevance to you this semester is the Paper 1 or the Guided Textual Analysis, different in parameters for both SL and HL, so if you want to review the specifics of the assessment requirements, hit pause now. Once again, getting into specifics of how your LP can help you succeed in your Paper 1, do know that the former gives you a space to keep track of not just the text that you study in class, but also how you react to and how you respond to and analyze these texts, of course under the guidance of not just your classmates, but also your teacher. Secondly, through the LP, you can try your hand at creating guide questions that could accompany the text that we study in class, the non-literary text that we study in class. Thirdly, again, and as always, the LP is a means for you to monitor your progress of reading texts and the manner of preparation that you deem fit in order for you to succeed in Paper 1. Now, the paper 2 is something that we're not taking up this semester, but it's okay. If you want to read up on the details or just review about what the heck paper 2 is all about, hit pause now. The LP is really there to help you succeed in paper 2 by giving you a space to group works with a common theme or issue together. Additionally, it's also there for you to be able to plot out the similarities and differences in and amongst the text that we've studied. Thirdly, the LP is there because it's a space for you to develop an awareness about the differences between and amongst literary forms in terms of their conventions, their approaches to a theme or issue, their structure, and their specific language use. Lastly, the LP can also help you by choosing a combination of works that you feel or deem could produce the most successful response to a paper 2 question. And lastly, for you HL students, do note the HL essay amounts to 30% of your marks for the semester. If you need to read up on the details of this particular assessment, do hit pause. If you're not HL, move on ahead, move forward. This time around, the LP is here to help you, the HL student, to get through writing your HL essay by giving you a space to develop independent thinking as to how you study your texts. Reflecting on maybe the ways that the text that you're studying or you're going to talk about is a means of reflecting the culture or the context from which it comes from. Meaning it can embody the values, it can embody the relationships, and other identities that are part of that particular context. Moreover, the LP can also be used to be an ongoing or live record of all of the themes and issues that you yourself deem important. Don't stop there, it can also keep a record of not just these themes and issues, but the relationship of such themes and issues to texts of interest to you. And I'm not just talking about literary ones, but also, of course, non-literary ones. Second to the last is that the LP also allows you a way to explore key extracts. I mean, if I had an LP, I would likely print out my extracts so that I could stick them on the paper and start annotating from there. Anyway, the point is, it's a means for you to check out how that key extract reinforces a particular theme of interest to your HL essay. Lastly, the LP is also there for you to reflect on the ways in which each text studied and or read could relate to the 7 course concepts. Now, if you look at the guide, the 7 course concepts are actually there. And all our texts will touch upon any combination of those course concepts, being that they are about identity, culture, creativity, communication, perspective, representation, and transformation. And finally, since I'm sure you're all wondering about how many LP entries you're going to submit by the end of the semester, do look at the slide. We will require you to submit 3 entries per unit. The first entry will be a critical reflection or reflective essay or a CRE. The second entry will always be an annotation either of a lit text or extract or a non-lit text or extract. And then the last one will always be your choice, a free choice entry that can take the form of either a CRE or an annotation or any of the other options that I had talked about previously in this video. Overall, that means that since we have 3 official units this semester, you will be required to submit 9 overall learning portfolio entries. This does not stop you though from making more entries because the more you make in your own time, the more free choice entries you can choose from to submit for me to mark.